Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us today for a Dynamics GP coffee break, time-saving tips in Dynamics GP. My name is Katie, and I'll be the facilitator today. If you have any questions during the presentation, please type them into the question area in the control panel on the right-hand side of your screen, and we'll answer questions at the end. This session will be recorded and posted on our blog, as well as shared with you later next week. Now, I would like to introduce our presenter today, Dawn McNulty, who is a solutions architect at Encore. Dawn, I'll pass it on to you.
Thanks, Katie. So today we're going to talk about
Oh, Dawn, I think you muted yourself there.
There we are. Sorry about that. So today we're going to talk about some time-saving tips in GP, primarily things around keyboard shortcuts, using Excel reports, using some SSRS reports, talk a bit about notes, attachments, and workflow, some system issues, some module ones, and some smart list designers. I want to keep it fairly rapid, so there's a fair number of pieces that I like to cover today. So I'm going to get right into this and start to move towards the demo. So the first thing I want to talk about is Windows shortcuts. So these shortcuts, these are some of the shortcuts that are available to us. We have the standard Windows shortcuts. These shortcuts work all through Windows applications, including Microsoft Dynamics GP. The Control-A selects all in a field, which is good. Control-C copy, Control-V for paste, Control-X for cut, and of course Control-P brings up the print menu. So these are standard ones, and these work in Word, they work in Excel, but they also work in GP as well. The one thing about the copy and the paste that you have to remember is that if you copy something and you paste it from a clipboard into a cell, if the amount that you copied is greater than the width of the cell, nothing will paste. So you must copy less than or equal to the size of the field. And those fields run anywhere from 15 to 30 to 50 characters, depending on where you are in GP. Ones that are very important inside GP itself is the control key with the letter L. That does a lookup. So instead of hitting the magnifying glass next to, say, the customers or the vendors or whatever it happens to be, hit Control L, you'll get a lookup screen. The Control U and the Control O are used to toggle your screens between the different currencies. So either functional currency, in my case, when I'm doing my demo, it will be in US dollars as my functional currency, and Canadian dollars will be my originating currency, and I will show this. And what it does is it flips it back and forth. It's just a toggle so you can take a look at it in both, look at the transaction in both directions. The other one that I find very, very helpful is Control E. So when you're on a sales order processing document or a purchase order processing document, you put in a PO number, put in a line number, and you go, oh, gee, I need to get to the detail line that's below this. In other words, I need to put in vendor dates. I need to put in information that's on the detail page that is not on the standard page. Control E will open that window for me so that I do not need to take my hands off the keyboard. These are all shortcuts that allow you to move around. Movement on the screen using the tab and the shift tab, that moves you cell left and right. Now this is assuming that you have your settings and your user preferences set to be tab for motion rather than return. When you move through a scrolling window, in order to get out of the scrolling window and get back to the main header, like header to detail, detail back to header, we use Control Tab, and Control Shift Tab takes you backwards. Space bar and enter for selection. So space bar will select something. So if you're in a toggle box and you hit the space bar, it will toggle that for you. If it's got a little piece around it, looks like little dots around it, if you hit the space bar, that will push it so you do not need to go to the mouse. The other one is the enter for selection. Now this one has to do with your user preferences, as I mentioned earlier. The enter key can be set on the user preferences, etc. So I'm going to show some of this, but I wanted that to know. Now, there are a whole swack of different ones that Microsoft has. So there's like 55 of them listed here on this particular shortcut for Windows. Katie will be pasting this into the chat window here. We'll be attaching it to the email at the end, or the link at the end. But these are places where individual users, Windows specific shortcuts work, whether it's decrease or increase, T's and things like that. if you've got things that you're trying to do and you think you should be able to do it, have a look at this particular list. I'm not going to go through them all. There's way too many of them. Okay. So let's go into the demo. So what I have here is I have Microsoft Dynamics GP and I have a few things running at this point. So the first thing I wanted to talk about was some of these lookups. So for instance, if I'm sitting inside here and I want to add here, I am currently sitting right on the, so if I'm using the tab key to move through this, I've entered the order, and now I want to put in a new item. If I go an A and then I go Control L, and all I'm doing is pressing Control L, I get the lookup that looks like this, and it will take me to the first L, and I can grab my 2-ear headset. Again, I can add one more to be entered, and I can hit tab, and then I can hit my $150 like so. And you'll notice that I've entered all of this in Canadian dollars. Now, if I wanted to see it in US dollars, because this is my functional currency, all I do is I hit Control U, and you'll see that it automatically flips this screen across to US dollars. And then when I go Control O, it puts it back to Canadian. So that way you can enter it in one currency, see what it's going to do for your financial statements on the other. This is very important, more so in the GL than it is here, but there's a lot of people that like to see both sides. So those are the two main ones that you've got there. Again, as you hit, if I was to hit enter right now, it would hit the save button for me, because it's the automatic default for the enter button in my particular system, because I've got it set on my user preferences. Okay. So other things that I can do inside here for this would be equal to, if I go into my notes inside here, I can cut and paste into here, and then I can use the Control C and the Control V. So I'm just going to leave that for now. So that's fine. I'm just going to move this aside. And this also works, by the way, exactly the same way here. If I go Control O for originating and Control U for functional, there it is. It just flips back and forth between the two. Again, same thing, toggles it back and forth. You can get that same thing by going up to here and going to here and picking the one that you wish. And then I can go like this, and that does exactly the same thing. But it's nice to have you to do it very quickly. Okay. So the next thing that I want to talk about is system setup. So there's system items. We have some system items as well as some modular items. On the system side, we have our user preference page. This page here is yours. You have your own home page, and you can put on it whatever you like. You can add quick links and things like that, so you can easily get to any of these available to promise or whatever you wish to add inside here. One of the things that you can do is that you can add a shortcut to the right-hand side. So inside the shortcut, what you can do is you just click inside here and you go add and add a window. We can add a window, and I'm going to add the same one that I've got here, which is account maintenance. I'm going to go into here. It's a Microsoft GP window. It's under financial. It's under account maintenance. There it is there. I can assign it a short key if I wish to. And this would then allow you to add short keys to that list that you could then use anytime in your system to pop that screen open. So if I need sales transaction entry open and I'm constantly going and finding it, then I could add that as a piece. I can add it inside here, and all I do is hit the add button, and I can then go account maintenance new and go add, and you'll see over here it says account maintenance new. My old account maintenance, we go done. My old account maintenance is sitting here. When I click on that button, it opens up this, and this will do exactly the same thing. It will open up the same window. Now, if I was to put something in, which I did on the first one, is a Control-Shift-M for maintenance, it will also do the same thing. So I've got a hotkey attached to it. So that's something that you can do. Under My Reports, we can put in things into My Reports. By running reports, on every report that you run inside GP, you can run these My Reports. So if I go into this one here, Account Transaction Default, that's in the financial. I'm going to stick to the financials. And I'm going over here to my Excel reports, because I wanted to talk about Excel reports. So when I click on Excel reports, it gives me a list of all the Excel reports that are available out of the box. These come default from GP. Then underneath here, I have an account transaction default, this one right here, which is a report. If I hit little checkbox here, I can add it to my reports up top here, and that will add it to my front homepage very well. Now, one of the things that I like about this is the speed of this. This is one of the biggest time savers. So inside here, you'll see that just popped up on the screen as an Excel spreadsheet. That brought out 23,000 records. Now, 23,000 records in SmartList would take quite a long length of time in order to get it out. This is exactly the same as the SmartList, and these can be edited and changed to do what you need them to do as well. So I wanted you to know about that. So I'm going to go don't save. Now, the next thing I've got is I've got reporting services reports. And under reporting services reports, I've got there's a large number inside here. And inside here, I have one called the trial balance. There it is there, trial balance detail. Again, I can add it to my reports, which I have done in the past. And there it is there. So now when I run this report, just double click it, it opens up this particular window. And this window is an SSRS report. So we select the value, and this is a history year. We're going to go no, and then I'm going to select the year 2027. And I'm going to pick up, I may need to pick up 2027 to 2027, like so. And I'm going to sort by account, and then I'm going to go view report. And what this does is this brings up the detailed trial balance, just as it does inside GP, but it does it faster and with one big exception, and that is that when I go up to my save, I can save it to Excel. When I save it to Excel, these numbers are in columns themselves already segregated apart, which means you're not constantly trying to revamp the wheel, which you get from your standard GL. Again, these can be changed if you need them to be. You can add additional fields such as the originating information and things like that. These particular reports are all sitting here underneath my reports, count transactions default, and SSRS. Okay, so reminders. Now up here, I've got a reminder that says I got 7 people over my credit limit. So in order to set a reminder, what we need to do is the easiest way to do it is to go into SmartList, and we say, okay, well, one of the things that I care about is I want to make sure all my customers are in classes. Or all my vendors are in classes, one of the two. So in this case, I'm going to do customers. So inside here, I have created one that says customers by class. And inside here, I've now listed all of my customers, 105 customers, and I'm showing their customer class at the front. If I was to search by this, I can now see that I've got 2 blanks, right? But I need to go through that procedure to do that. So I said, well, really, I want it to go directly to my homepage to tell me about this and reminder. So what I can do is I can just click on the favorite, and instead of here, what we can do is I can go customer class reminder. Just call it a, whoops. Reminder, and I'm going to go like this, and I'm going to go add, and I'm going to add a favorite and a reminder. Now, when I add the reminder screen, it pops up and says, okay, when the number of records is greater than 0. And we go, okay. So now this whole list is 105 records are going to show up. You go, well, I don't want to do that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a search criteria. And inside my search criteria, I'm going to go into my customer class, and I'm going to say equal to blank, and I'm going to go okay. There it is there. There's the 2. And now when I go to my favorites and modify, yes, I want to change the reminder. It automatically changes the reminder. So now when I close this, and I go back to here, and I go back to my homepage, and by hitting this, I refresh my homepage, I can now see that I have customers by class reminder. I can open up that list, and now I can go into these customers, and I can assign them to a class. Like so, go yep, and go save. When I close this, and now when I close this, when I refresh the page, you'll notice that the number has gone down to 1. So I can keep this. And once it's got 0, it won't show up on the screen anymore, so that you don't have to worry about it. So you can put things in. You have to be careful about how long these smart lists take to run, but they can do things like customers without class, vendors without class, unposted journal entries, unposted sales orders, whatever you wish it to do, you can put into the class here. This will refresh every time you come in here, and every time you hit this home button, it refreshes that particular piece inside there. All right, window preferences. So The only other thing I really wanted to talk about on that is, so underneath your user preferences, there's a couple of things. There's your action pane here, which is this bar that you see at the top here, OK, cancel, additional. These big buttons is the action pane. The strip makes them smaller. And the menu bar, if you have been in GP for a while and like the old system, you can go back to the old one. If you change one of these inside here, you do have to restart GP for it to be effective. You have to get out of GP and come back in. That's all you need to do. This is where you set your tab key or enter. If you hit this as enter, enter will work exactly like a tab and move you from cell to cell rather than saving the whole document. People coming from other systems sometimes like to do that. Okay, so the last piece that I wanted to talk about inside admin is underneath the utilities. This send user message. So this is very good. You can send it to whoever you wish inside your system, and you can type in it whatever message you want. Please log out of GP for check links, something like that. So this is something that we sometimes have to do. We have to tell people what it is, and we can just hit the send. Message not sent. You haven't selected. Oops, I haven't selected one yet. Let's go notification and go send. So there it is. Anybody who's currently logged in will get that message. I will get it. It takes a couple of minutes for it to show up, and it's going to show up on my screen in a couple of minutes. And what will happen is it'll just say that particular message. What that allows you to do is especially powerful if you have remote users where you're trying to, you need to get everybody out of the system so that you can do some maintenance or something. And Joe in Toronto doesn't get out, and you're sitting in Seattle. So that's kind of the problem there. So that's one of the questions. So GL. So other time-saving tips we've got. So a couple of things inside here that we need to talk about. Underneath your general, in your general transactions, there's a couple of buttons you should probably already know about. There's a correct and the copy. You can copy an old journal entry into itself, so you can repeat it, and then you can make changes to it before you post it. Or you can correct it, or you can correct a transaction. When I correct the transaction, all I hit is the correct. I can back it out, or I can back out and create a correcting journal entry. I wish to say that I've never posted a journal entry backwards, but I'm an accountant. I have been for 40 years, and I have done a few backwards, and I'm sure I'll do a couple more before I retire. So in any case, this is a very powerful feature, allows you to do this year's or last year's, and it then will redate accordingly. Your copy. When you do a copy, it just asks you which one you had before. You can redo that. It will reproduce that document so that you can repost it. So if you've got a depreciation entry and the only thing that changed over the year is the dollar values, you can bring that journal entry up from the prior year, change the numbers, and post it without having to code it, which is really nice. The other thing that we've got at the top here is this paste. So inside the paste here, what happens is that we can have a transaction that looks like this. So inside my Excel, I have put together this GL import thing. So I've got an expense amount of $1,000. So I could put in $2,000 here. And when I do that, you'll see that all the numbers have changed accordingly. These GL codes are all set. They're all going to 6520, but in different departments, 100, 200, 300, and 400. I have different descriptions coming down, and I have the account number. So I can come through here, and I can click here, and I go import test. I have to fill in my header, import test. But once I filled in my header, I can come down to the bottom, and then I can just grab my description, my debits and my credits, and go Control-C, back to those hotkeys, copy. And then when I click here, all I have to do is hit the paste, and it will paste those exact information directly into GP. So this allows you to easily do that. There's your 100, 200, and 800, and now I can post this transaction accordingly. So then I can make changes that I want. I can make these, I can hook this type of thing to the bottom of a spreadsheet, which calculates this number here and then does the percentages or whatever it happens to be. These percentages could be based on other information that you have above, maybe unit accounts, maybe things like number of people, number of full-time employees, etc. This would be something that you might want to do. And that way, once it's done, you just have to copy and paste this thing in each month end, and you get your transaction accordingly. I am going to delete this transaction so I don't have to worry about it. So there it is there. And that's how you can import that particular type of transaction. Other things that you need to know about. Most people know about reversing. You can reverse today. I can put it in on the 30th of April, and then reverse it on the 1st of May for your accruals. I'm not going to talk too much about that one. But one item which is quite important is when I go to a batch, and I click on the batch, I can make a batch multiple uses. I can do this in a lot of different systems, a lot of different areas. Accounts payable, AR, AP, as well as GL. And I can make them weekly, monthly, semi-monthly, or whatever. So I can have a monthly transaction. Maybe my monthly transaction is insurance. For 12 months, I need this to run this particular journal entry 12 times until the expiry so that I can get rid of all of my prepaid expenses. So each time I post this batch, it will post one of them, update the transaction by a single month. And I can do different periods as well. So that's what that does. Now, one of the other things that has happened in GP recently is, let me go delete, is you have the ability in your inquiry screens to save settings on the header of the inquiry so that you can use that same settings and sort orders the next time you're in. The most important piece of that one is underneath your purchasing. So inside my purchase orders, inside my purchasing, and I hit transactions by vendor. If you've got a large vendor, and I'm just going to pick Ace Travel here, what happens is that I see inside here by default, this is what it looks like. This is what it looks like. So each time I do this, when I hit the view, I can just do that. So when I go into these transactions by vendor, I hit the transactions by vendor, I hit in Ace Travel, and I do this. Now, because I've got history selected and I've got it by document type, I have to scroll down to try and find what transactions I'm looking for. I've got my history, and in some people's cases, I've got thousands and thousands of transactions that are in history for vendors. So what you'd say is, well, what I really want to do is I want to get rid of that. And I also want to sort by document date so that it sorts it ascending by document date. And you go, this is great. This is what I want to look at every time I come in here. All I have to do is go up to the view, hit the save window preference, and go like this. And now when I go back into here and I go to transactions by vendor, you'll see that the document date and the history is already selected. And then when I go Ace Travel, all I get is the open transactions. This is very important because it speeds up the sort. It means this window opens fast rather than waiting for it to look at 10,000 transactions that happened in the last 10 years. So it's a very important piece. Now, this is true here. It's also true on a lot of different windows. So as you go through different windows, you can do things. So underneath sales, for instance, if I go transactions by customer, document, there's the type and the history. I can type off the history. I can click on my document date. And now I can go in and I can pick air fits. And there's my open transactions for air and fits. If I like this view, I can hit the save window preferences. I do not need to make this change each time I come in here. And so this is done by user. So each user can do this. There is no global setting for it, but it is available by user. And as you can see here, there's the functional and originating. So if I was to go into here, and again, if I go Control O for originating, it now changes it to originating. I only have US dollars in here, so there it is there. So what it has been redone. And when I go Control U, it goes back to that. And then that is just using this button up, same as this up here. So again, back to those Control U's and the Control O's to do that. How am I doing? 924. Okay. Purchasing columns, right. So other ones that people have asked me about. One of the biggest time savers that I think a lot of people don't know is that when you build a payment batch and you bring up this payment batch, when you edit a payment batch, when you edit the payment batch, this is what you get by default. So inside here, I get test. Yeah, I want to add the batch and we'll just go save. That's fine. We'll hit test. So it gives me the voucher number, but the voucher number means nothing. The voucher number is the internal document number. What you really want is the document number. By clicking on columns right here, you can attach the document and take the voucher off and go okay. And now you've got the document number that you have on the actual document. And now you can go in and select document 1000, 1003, 1005, or whatever it happens to be. Okay, so then you can select whatever you want, and I can click the ACE travel, and there it is there, and it selects the ones that need to be done. And then I can unselect whatever I need to inside here. I can add additional columns. If I really do want the voucher number, I can put that one on as well. And now I've got both the voucher number and the document. It just makes everything a little tighter. And it's up to you as to what you want. And you may decide you want the document date, or you may want the original amount, or whatever it is that you wish inside here. And you can then see what the documents actually are. This one I find very, very helpful on that side. The last thing I want to talk about before I run out of time is to talk about the movement of transactions. Underneath sales and underneath purchases, under the routines, there is a paid transaction removal and a remove completed POs. This moves transactions to history. This should be done on a monthly basis or on a quarterly basis to speed up your AR posting, okay? We suggest that you leave 1 or 2 months behind so that you can unapply transactions that have been misapplied. But by moving these transactions to history, it speeds up the system and moves them so that they mark from open to history. That's true in the AR. And when I'm in purchasing, I also wanted to talk, it's also underneath utilities, and it is called reconcile, and there's routines, a remove completed POs. All POs that are fully paid, fully invoiced, or fully transacted across into accounts payable will automatically move to history. And the last piece is underneath routines in your general ledger, you have a reconcile to GL. If you're not using this, you're missing out on a really big piece inside here. You can reconcile your GL to receivables, from payables, receivables, inventory, and bank rec. When you hit the payables management like so, you would then select your account that you want to reconcile it to, and when you hit the process, it will then select hit save and go process. It will create an Excel spreadsheet for you that shows you matching unmatched transactions, potentially matched transactions, and matched transactions between your general ledger and your subledgers, so that you can find out which transactions are causing you problems and make it easier to balance at month end. All right. Let me go from current slide. So next is, are there any questions?
Thanks, Dawn. If anyone does have any questions, please enter them into the question area in the control panel on the right-hand side of your screen. We are nearing time, so we will get back to you by email later today for those questions. We do have one more GP Coffee Break webinar scheduled before we take a break over the summer. I'll add the link to our events page in the chat if you'd like to register for that session. I'll also add the link where you can set your email preferences and opt into our quarterly emails so that you can stay in the know about upcoming events and see our latest blog articles. All right, thank you, Dawn, for the information, and thank you everyone for joining us today. Have a great rest of your day.
Thank you.